China took over Greece's near-bankrupt port and turned it into the largest in the Mediterranean, much to the envy of the West. Let's find out more in this video. As a European country, Greece's development is quite poor and even broke out in the crisis of bankruptcy. The port of Piraeus has been hit hard, and when the Greek port was on the verge of bankruptcy, China paid huge sums to take over its operation, which was once ridiculed by Western countries. 2 years later, however, it turned out to be the biggest port in the Mediterranean by attracting local workers and businesses. So what was China doing to revive the port? And how valuable is this Greek port? The Greek port that China bought was the Mediterranean port of Piraeus, which means the place to guard the passage, and it certainly lived up to its name. As the largest port in Greece, Piraeus port is not only an important transit station connecting the Balkan Peninsula, Southern Europe, the Black Sea region, Central and Eastern Europe, Africa, but also the largest container port in the Eastern Mediterranean region, known as the Southern Gate of Europe. Not only that, because there is basically no disaster weather throughout the year, and it is not affected by tides, the dock, channel and berths are natural water depth, no silting phenomenon, no need to dredge all year round, is well-deserved, natural port. But this is such a good port, the situation in 2008 was terrible. The original equipment was old and poorly maintained, and the equipment records of some facilities have been destroyed. And due to poor management, the port could not pay staff wages, resulting in low efficiency of staff work. A large number of port ships due to poor loading and unloading were seriously stranded, and the truck queue to pick up goods even had to line up 5 kilometers away. Over time, Piraeus port business gradually dried up, thus forming a vicious circle. Losses reached 13 million. The port almost lost its resource customers and had to choose to sell. So why did such a fine port fall into such a miserable state? The most important reason is the Greek economic crisis. After Greece formally joined the euro in 2001, it took advantage of easy credit within the bloc to borrow and expand government spending, leading to a brief economic boom. But after the 2008 global financial crisis, the cost of borrowing skyrocketed. It became increasingly difficult to receive financing, financial conditions took a turn for the worse, a large number of companies declared bankruptcy, and Greece had to sell some bankrupt state-owned companies and assets in exchange for some cash. Piraeus was one of them, but no one was willing to accept such a heavily indebted port, and most of the Greek government's assets were listed in the West as non-performing and not worth investing in. So everyone assumed that Piraeus would be a mess in Greece's hands. But just as the Greek government was getting desperate, China's COSCO shipping group, which had been negotiating with Greece for a long time, decided to step in. They won the right to operate Terminals 2 and 3 of the port of Piraeus for 35 years. The news, like a thunderbolt, set off across the Western world. No one can figure out why China would accept such a mess. Countries have mocked this is not understand the economic behavior, and even some directly publicly said that the Greek port of Piraeus will become China's bitter fruit in Europe. But soon, China will give all doubters a slap in the face. On June 1, 2010, after 8 months transition period, China officially took over the 2 terminals at the port of Piraeus, and within 8 months, the port experienced new losses of tens of millions of euros. It is fair to say that China inherited a real mess. In order to revitalize the port, COSCO Shipping Group has transformed Piraeus port from 2 aspects. The first is the equipment. In response to the problems of outdated equipment and frequent failures in Piraeus port, COSCO Shipping Group quickly sent the best managers and technicians from China. After 2 weeks of continuous hard work, the terminal basically resumed normal operation. With China's unremitting efforts, the throughput of Piraeus port has taken off. In the case of the continued downturn in the global shipping situation and the continuous deterioration of the overall environment in Greece, Piraeus port still won the throughput growth rate of the world's top 100 container ports in 2011 and 2012, and has since achieved double-digit growth, which shocked the whole world. In addition, China, with the consent of Greece, built the Pier 3 deep water port. With 13 of the most advanced double-lifting bridge cranes, 6 rail bars and 28 electric tire cranes, the cargo handling capacity of Piraeus port has been upgraded to a new level. At the same time as the rapid increase of Chinese manufacturing in Piraeus port, the training of relevant talents by the Chinese side is also in progress. At the beginning of the Chinese acceptance of Piraeus port, many Greek people were worried that the Chinese would take their jobs. But soon, the Greek people found that their idea was unnecessary, and China did not send a large number of workers to Piraeus port, but hired more than 1,000 new employees at the beginning of the takeover. Under the Chinese training, these employees quickly became familiar with the operation process, mastered Chinese standards, Chinese technology and Chinese experience, which is undoubtedly a great addition to the large number of Chinese manufacturing in Piraeus port. In order to eliminate Greek people's misunderstanding of Chinese enterprises, COSCO Shipping Group has also made a lot of efforts. In order to solve the problem of eating for employees, after understanding the situation, the Chinese management decided to provide free lunch for employees by the company, and employees set up lunch management organizations by themselves so that local workers can feel the warmth from China. Not only that, because some Greek employees do not like to save, often suffer from cash flow difficulties before the salary is paid, the company also allows them to advance part of their salary to help them tide over the difficulties. After years of hard work overseas, there are only 18 Chinese in the management team of Piraeus port, and the rest are more than 600 local people, and Chinese enterprises are becoming more and more welcome in Greece. With the unremitting efforts of China, Piraeus port has been reborn in the fire and re-proved its important position as the southern gate of Europe to the world. According to statistics, 3 months after China took over the port, it began to achieve consecutive monthly profits, and the production situation has undergone fundamental changes, and by the end of May 2012, it has made up all the losses generated in the previous period and successfully turned the loss into a profit. And Greece, having seen China's power, is more comfortable leaving its assets in Chinese hands. In August 2016, China paid only 368.5 million yuan to obtain the right to operate Piraeus Port Terminal 1, and 67% of the shares of Piraeus Port, which can be said to be fully in control of the management of Piraeus Port. The port of Piraeus has achieved a qualitative leap forward under the construction of China. Since then, Piraeus port container throughput has risen by 64 places in the world, has become one of the fastest-growing container ports in the world, and even surpassed Valencia, Spain. To become the first port in the Mediterranean, the speed of development is a miracle. The rapid development of Piraeus port has brought huge benefits to China. China has also created a new trade route between China and Central and Eastern Europe with the port of Piraeus at its core. As an important part of China's Silk Road economic belt, this express line covers 1,500 outlets in 9 countries with a population of 71 million. The time for Far Eastern goods from China and other places to be transported to the interior of Europe has been shortened by 7 to 10 days, greatly reducing transportation costs and becoming the most convenient and efficient gate for Chinese manufacturing to enter the European market. Not only that, many international first-class enterprises have also set up logistics distribution companies in Piraeus port, and more interested customers are actively negotiating, and the prosperity of Piraeus port will continue for a long time. The prosperity of Piraeus port has also helped Greece attract hundreds of millions of foreign investments, and directly created more than 3,000 local jobs, indirectly created more than 10,000 jobs, and brought a direct economic contribution of €300 million a year to the local economy, becoming an important help for Greece to get out of the economic crisis. Greece also expressed heartfelt thanks to China, saying that the Greek people will never forget that China stood up when they were suffering from a severe economic crisis and Europe did not help them. It can be said that China and Spain have achieved a win-win situation in the operation of Piraeus port. It was not until this time that Western countries discovered the potential of Piraeus port, calling China a big bargain and admiring China's vision. France said publicly that no one could have imagined that China had turned the port of Piraeus into a transshipment center, a cargo hub and a gateway to the rest of Europe. It has become the flagship of China's new Silk Road strategy. China and Greece, two ancient and wise countries, have achieved win-win cooperation in the true sense, and I believe that we can work together to create more miracles in the future. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more great content. See you next time.